The Relic and the Ridiculers. Captain Eleanor Reeves stood on the bridge of the EFS Dauntless, her weathered hands resting on the cold metal railing as she gazed through the viewport at the gleaming alien vessels beyond. The massive diplomatic station, a marvel of Zarelian engineering, housed the Galactic Confederation's annual technology summit, where Earth's representatives were once again being politely but firmly relegated to observer status. The Dauntless herself was kept at a respectful distance from the station. Translation: far enough away that the Confederation delegates wouldn't have to look at her battle-scarred hull or acknowledge her outdated design. At 73 years old, the Dauntless was ancient by current standards, a relic from humanity's first push into deep space. "Captain, incoming transmission from the summit," announced Lieutenant Park, his fingers dancing across the tactile controls of his communication console, another primitive feature the aliens found amusing. "Put it through," Reeves ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. She already knew what was coming. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the face of Admiral Chen, Earth's senior representative. Even through the blue-tinted projection, Reeves could see the frustration etched into his features. "Eleanor, it's the same story. The Zarelians have vetoed our application for weapons technology sharing." Again. Reeves nodded, unsurprised. "Let me guess. Our simplistic approach to spacecraft engineering makes us unqualified for their precious energy cannons. Worse, Ambassador Tyloth actually laughed during my presentation, called our railgun technology charming historical artifacts. They're offering us outdated shield generators instead, technology they retired a decade ago. They don't respect what they don't understand," Reeves replied, glancing around her bridge. While the aliens flaunted their neural interfaces and quantum-entangled command systems, the Dauntless relied on physical controls, mechanical backups, and human skill. Her crew didn't just operate their stations, they felt them, understood them at a fundamental level no AI integration could match. "We'll be heading back to Earth tomorrow," Chen sighed. Another wasted. The transmission suddenly cut out, replaced by a blaring alarm. Lieutenant Park's hands flew across his console. "Captain, emergency broadcast on all channels. The Vanturi mining colony is under attack." The main screen shifted to display of distress signal. The colony, located in a resource-rich asteroid belt near the border of Confederation space, was home to over 3,000 human miners and their families. "Unknown vessels," Park continued, his voice tense, not matching any Confederation signatures. Before Reeves could respond, Admiral Chen's transmission reconnected. "Captain Reeves, are you receiving the Vanturi distress call?" "Yes, Admiral. We're already calculating the fastest route." "Negative," Chen replied. "The Confederation Council is dispatching 3 of their newest defense cruisers, the Zarelian flagship Eternal Light and 2 Delphian support vessels. They've requested that Earth forces maintain their current position." Reeves stiffened. "With respect, Admiral, Vanturi is an Earth colony. Our people are dying while we sit here watching. The Council insists that their ships are better equipped to handle the situation. The Dauntless would just—" Chen hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Get in the way. Get in the way," Reeves repeated flatly, "or embarrass them with our charming historical artifacts." The view screen suddenly split, showing the 3 Confederation vessels launching from the station. They were breathtaking, sleek, gleaming ships that seemed to flow through space rather than push through it. Their quantum drives flared with blue-white energy as they accelerated to speeds the Dauntless could never hope to match. "Orders, Admiral?" Reeves asked, though she already knew what her next actions would be, regardless of the response. Chen's eyes met hers through the transmission. After a moment, his expression hardened. "The Dauntless is experiencing communication difficulties and hasn't received any stand-down orders. Isn't that right, Captain?" A smile tugged at the corner of Reeves' mouth. "Terrible problem with these outdated systems, sir. We'll have to investigate once the current crisis is resolved." Good hunting, Eleanor. Chen out. The moment the transmission ended, Reeves turned to her navigation officer. Lieutenant Okafor, plot a course to Vanturi Colony. Maximum sustainable burn. Aye, Captain. Course plotted. Transit time. 3 hours, 14 minutes. Too long, Reeves muttered. She pressed the intercom. Engineering, this is the captain. I need everything you can give me. Chief Engineer Takahashi's voice crackled through the speaker. Captain, I've been monitoring. I can push the reactor to 118% if we bypass the safeties. Not recommended by the manual, but the old girl can take it. Do it. And Takahashi, no one knows this ship better than you. I need ideas. Anything to give us an edge when we arrive. Actually, Captain, the engineer replied, an unusual note of excitement in his voice. I've been working on something. Remember those experimental kinetic accelerator modifications we discussed? I might have implemented a few of them already. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Without official authorization, Chief. Call it routine maintenance, ma'am. The kind that happens to increase our main railgun velocity by 32%. For the first time that day, Reeves smiled genuinely. Carry on with your maintenance, Chief. Bridge out. As the Dauntless's engines roared to life, pushing the massive ship forward with renewed vigor, Reeves addressed her bridge crew. The Confederation ships will beat us there, but that doesn't mean we won't be needed. Tactical, run full diagnostics on all weapon systems. Communications, monitor all frequencies from Vanturi and the Confederation vessels. I want to know what we're flying into. The journey to Vanturi was tense. Regular updates from the colony painted an increasingly dire picture. 12 unknown vessels had appeared without warning, their technology unlike anything seen before. They ignored all communication attempts and began systematic attacks on the colony's defenses. 2 hours into their journey, Lieutenant Park straightened at his console. Captain, I'm receiving transmissions from the Confederation ships. They've engaged the enemy. On screen, Reeves ordered. The view screen displayed tactical data being relayed from the battle. The 3 Confederation vessels moved with incredible precision, their quantum shields flickering as they absorbed enemy fire. The Zarelian flagship launched brilliant pulses of energy that seemed to bend space itself around the enemy ships. They're tearing through them, Lieutenant Okafor observed. Those energy weapons are incredible. But Reeves noticed something concerning. The enemy is adapting. Look at ships 7 and 9. They are changing their shield configurations. As they watched, the pattern of the battle shifted. The unknown vessels began predicting the Confederation ships' movements, positioning themselves to avoid the energy weapons firing solutions. The Delphian support cruisers, relying heavily on their automated defense systems, suddenly found those systems targeting empty space as the enemy ships moved in seemingly impossible patterns. Their eye targeting can't keep up, Reeves realized. The enemy is using some kind of predictive countermeasure against their systems. The situation deteriorated rapidly. One of the Delphian cruisers erupted in silent flame as multiple enemy weapons found their mark. The second cruiser attempted an evasive maneuver that should have been impossible to anticipate and flew directly into concentrated enemy fire. Zarelian flagship is withdrawing, Park announced, disbelief in his voice. They're retreating. Reeves watched as the Eternal Light, pride of the Zarelian fleet, disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving the remaining enemy vessels free to continue their assault on the colony. Time to arrival, she demanded. 23 minutes, Captain, Okafor replied. Too long, Reeves said, her jaw set. Push it to 125%. The colony won't last 23 minutes. When the Dauntless finally dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Vanturi system, the situation appeared hopeless. The colony's outer defensive ring was shattered, with debris and bodies floating in the vacuum. 7 of the unknown vessels were methodically destroying the remaining infrastructure, while the other 5 maintained position around the main habitation dome, where life support was failing. "We're being scanned," Park reported. "The enemy vessels have detected us." "Tactical analysis," Reeves ordered. Lieutenant Commander Sato at the tactical station frowned at his readings. "Unknown hull composition, Captain. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Their weapons appear to be some form of plasma phase cannon, far more advanced than our own technology. But not railguns," Reeves noted. "Chief Takahashi, are your maintenance upgrades online?" "Yes, Captain," came the immediate reply. "All kinetic weapons primed and ready. I've disabled the computerized targeting assists as you ordered. We're running on manual calculations only." "Good. Target the nearest vessel threatening the main dome. Manual targeting, maximum velocity. Let's remind these visitors what happens when you attack an Earth colony." The Dauntless moved forward, its massive engines pushing the old ship into battle position. On the bridge, calculations were being made the old way, by humans using physical tools and their own trained judgment. "Enemy vessels altering course to intercept," Seto reported. "They're scanning us extensively. I think they're confused by our approach. Their attack pattern has become erratic." "They can't predict us," Reeves realized. "Their systems are designed to counter AI and quantum technology, not analog controls and human intuition. Fire main batteries when ready, Commander." The Dauntless shuddered as its main railguns discharged, sending hypersonic projectiles streaking toward the nearest enemy vessel. There was no energy signature to detect, no complex pattern to analyze, just solid metal traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. The impact was spectacular. The enemy ship's advanced shields, designed to disperse energy weapons, did nothing against the physical projectiles. The railgun rounds tore through its hull, sending it spinning away in a cloud of debris and escaping atmosphere. The remaining enemy vessels immediately altered course, bringing their weapons to bear on the Dauntless. The bridge rocked as the first impacts struck their armor. "Shields at 64%, Seto called out. "Their weapons are partially penetrating our defenses." "Roll the ship," Reeves ordered. "Present our heaviest armor and keep firing." "Unpredictable pattern, Lieutenant Okafor. I want them guessing where we'll be next." What followed was unlike any battle the crew had experienced. The Dauntless was slower, less advanced, and outgunned, but the enemy couldn't anticipate their movements. Every computerized prediction failed as Reeves ordered course changes based on instinct rather than logic. Every planned intercept missed as the human gunners aimed where the enemy would be, not where they were. 3 more enemy vessels erupted into debris fields under the Dauntless's relentless barrage. A 4th attempted to flee, only to be caught by a spread of kinetic mines deployed from the cargo bay. Another of Takahashi's unauthorized modifications. The remaining ships began to retreat, seemingly unable to comprehend how their advanced technology was failing against what should have been an obsolete vessel. As they fled the system, emergency teams from the Dauntless were already racing to stabilize the colony's life support systems. Hours later, as the cleanup and rescue operations continued, Admiral Chen's transmission reached the Dauntless. "The Confederation Council is calling it a miracle," he said, barely containing his satisfaction. The mighty Zarelian flagship forced to retreat, while an obsolete Earth vessel saved the day. Ambassador Tyloth hasn't stopped apologizing. "Not a miracle, Admiral," Reeves replied, exhaustion evident in her voice. "Just humans doing what we've always done, adapting, improvising, and refusing to give up, even when outmatched. The Council wants a full briefing on how you defeated the unknown vessels. They're particularly interested in this primitive railgun technology of ours." Reeves smiled tiredly. "Happy to oblige. But first, we have a colony to save and wounded to tend to. And Admiral, we identified a critical weakness in their approach. They're too dependent on predictive algorithms. If they return in force, we'll need every outdated ship we can muster." "They're already gathering." Chen's expression grew serious. "Long-range scans show a massive fleet assembling just beyond the border. Whatever these beings are, They don't take defeat well. The Confederation is mobilizing, but after today's performance, they're asking for our help, specifically ships like the Dauntless. Reeves looked around her bridge at the analog controls and mechanical systems that had just saved thousands of lives. Then they're finally learning what we've known all along, Admiral. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As Chen's transmission ended, Reeves turned to gaze out at the stars. The enemy would return, stronger and more prepared. But now, humanity would be ready, with technology that wasn't impressive because of its complexity, but because of its reliability and the skill of those who wielded it. The battle was won. The war was just beginning. When antiquity meets arrogance. 3 weeks after the Vanturi colony incident, the mood in the Earth Fleet Command Center was grim. Holographic displays showed the massive enemy armada gathering at the edge of Confederation space. Over 200 vessels, including a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest Zarelian capital ships. They're calling themselves the Quantirium. Admiral Chen explained to the assembled military leadership and ship captains, including Eleanor Reeves. Intelligence suggests they've been studying our galaxy for decades, learning our technologies, analyzing our combat patterns, preparing for total conquest. And they nearly succeeded, added Ambassador Tai Loth, the Zarelian representative who once mocked Earth's military capabilities. Their silver-scaled skin reflected the holographic light as they gestured to the display. Their first attack was a test, a probe of our defenses. What comes next will be devastating. Captain Reeves studied the massive enemy flagship at the center of the hologram. Their weakness remains the same. They rely too heavily on predictive algorithms and automated response systems. Our analysis of the Vanturi battle confirms they struggle against analog systems and human-controlled vessels. Which is why, Chen continued, we've recalled every ship in the Earth fleet that hasn't been fully converted to quantum technology. 17 vessels, including the Dauntless, that still maintain significant manual control systems. Tyloth's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of Zarelian distress. 17 obsolete ships against 200 advanced warships. This is madness. With respect, Ambassador, Reeves interjected, those obsolete ships are exactly what drove off the Quantirium at Vanturi. Your flagship, with all its advanced technology, was forced to retreat. The Zarelian scales flushed dark blue with embarrassment, a tactical withdrawal to assess the situation. But point taken, Captain. Admiral Chen manipulated the hologram, highlighting the enemy flagship. Intelligence suggests this is more than just a command vessel. It's a mobile planet killer, capable of creating cascading quantum disruptions that could tear a world apart. Their likely target is Earth itself, as our primitive technology presents the greatest threat to their conquest. Then we need to hit them first, Reeves said decisively. A preemptive strike at their command ship before they can mobilize against Earth. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. You're proposing an offensive action against a force that outnumbers us 10 to 1. Tylov asked incredulously. I'm proposing we use their arrogance against them, Reeves clarified. They expect us to defend, to react according to standard military doctrine. Let's show them how primitive humans can really be. Admiral Chen studied her for a long moment. What exactly are you suggesting, Captain? 2 days later, the Dauntless and 5 other Earth vessels, all older models with minimal AI integration, approached the gathering Quantirium fleet under the cover of a nebula's electromagnetic interference. On the bridge, Reeves and her crew worked with practiced efficiency, their movements precise despite the tension. Status report, Reeves demanded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the enemy armada just beyond the nebula's edge. All systems operational, Captain, replied Lieutenant Commander Sato from Tactical. Weapons primed and ready. Engineering reports the modifications are complete. Reeves nodded. And our special cargo. Secure in the main cargo bay. Chief Engineer Takahashi's voice came through the comm. Though I still think this is properly insane, Captain. Even for you. Noted, Chief, Reeves replied with a thin smile. But insanity is our advantage today. The Quantarium analyzes logic, predicts rational responses. They can't predict what they consider irrational. The plan was audacious, perhaps suicidal, but it was also distinctly human. The kind of bold, adaptive strategy that had kept humanity alive through countless challenges. While the Confederation's remaining forces prepared a defensive line around Earth, Reeves' small squadron would attempt something the enemy would never expect: a direct attack on their command ship. "Signal the squadron," Reeves ordered. "Execute in 3 minutes. Radio silence from this point forward." The next 3 minutes passed in tense silence. Then, on Reeves' command, the 6 Earth vessels surged from the nebula, their engines flaring as they accelerated toward the Quantarium fleet. Confusion rippled through the enemy formation. Small attack groups broke off to intercept the Earth ships, but their movements were hesitant, disorganized. They hadn't anticipated an offensive from such a small force. "They're trying to analyze our approach vector," Sado observed, "attempting to predict our target." "Let's keep them guessing," Reeves replied. "Execute Maneuver Delta." The Earth squadron abruptly split apart, each vessel taking a different trajectory. 5 headed toward various points in the enemy formation, diversionary targets designed to scatter the Quantarium's attention. The Dauntless, meanwhile, adjusted course toward the massive enemy flagship. "Enemy vessels responding to our decoys," Park reported from communications. "They're dividing their forces." "As expected," Reeves nodded. "Their algorithms can't determine which of us is the primary threat, so they're covering all possibilities." Lieutenant Okafor, initiate evasive pattern Echo 7. The Dauntless began a series of seemingly random course changes, a pattern Reeves and Okafor had developed specifically for this mission. It wasn't truly random, but it followed human intuition rather than mathematical logic, making it nearly impossible for the Quantarium's predictive systems to anticipate. "Enemy interceptors closing," Sado warned. 20 seconds to weapons range. "All gunners to manual control," Reeves ordered. "Target their propulsion systems when possible. We don't need to destroy them. Just keep them off balance." The Dauntless shuddered as the first enemy weapons fire struck their shields. Lieutenant Commander Sado called out damage reports and shield status while the ship's railguns responded with devastating accuracy. 3 Quantarium vessels spun away, their drive systems shattered by the hypersonic projectiles. "Captain," Park called out suddenly, "the enemy flagship is moving. They've recognized us from Venturi. They're making us a priority target." Reeves allowed herself a grim smile. "Good. That's exactly what we want. Mr. Okafor, adjust course to maintain intercept with their flagship. Chief Takahashi, begin power-up sequence for our special package." As the Dauntless drove deeper into the enemy formation, the situation aboard grew increasingly dire. Shield strength dropped below 40%, then 30%. Hull breaches were reported on decks 7 and 9. 2 of the diversionary Earth vessels had already been disabled, their crews evacuating to escape pods. "Their flagship is launching precision strikes," Sado reported, his voice tight with tension. "Targeting calculations suggest they're learning our evasion patterns." "Then let's give them something new to analyze," Reeves decided. "Helm, reverse thrust, full power, rotate 180 on the z-axis." The maneuver was reckless, flying backward through an active battle zone while presenting their underside to enemy fire, but it caught the Quantarium completely off guard. Their targeting algorithms failed to adjust in time, sending their next barrage wide of the mark. "We're within deployment range, Captain," Takahashi reported from engineering. "But our shield integrity is at 17%. One direct hit from their flagship's main weapon, and we're finished." Reeves studied the tactical display. The enemy flagship loomed before them, its hull pulsing with strange energies as it prepared to fire its primary weapon. Behind them, the remaining Earth vessels continued their diversionary attacks, drawing off as many enemy ships as possible. "This close, they won't risk firing their planet killer," Reeves reasoned. Too much chance of damaging themselves. Open the main cargo bay doors. Deploy the package. Deep within the Dauntless, massive doors slid open, exposing the ship's cargo bay to the vacuum of space. Inside was a modified mining device, a gravitational singularity generator originally designed to create controlled micro-black holes for extracting ore from dense asteroids. Takahashi and his team had removed every safety mechanism and amplified its power to dangerous levels. Package deployed. Takahashi confirmed. Activation sequence initiated. We have 3 minutes to clear the blast radius, Captain. Helm, full reverse. Get us out off. The ship lurched violently as a concentrated burst from the enemy flagship's secondary weapons struck their engine housing. Warning alarms blared across the bridge. Main propulsion offline, Okafor reported, fighting with his controls. Maneuvering thrusters at 30% capacity. Reeves' mind raced. The singularity generator would activate regardless. It was on an irreversible countdown. But the Dauntless was now trapped within its effective range. Chief Takahashi, she called over the comm. Options. Working on it, Captain, came the strained reply. But physics is physics. When that thing goes off, anything within 10,000 kilometers is going to experience extreme gravitational distortion. Reeves looked around her bridge at the crew who had served with her through countless missions. They all knew the situation, and none showed any sign of panic or retreat. Lieutenant Park, she said calmly, signal the squadron. All vessels to maximum safe distance. Authorization code Reeves Alpha 1. Captain, Park hesitated. That's the evacuation code. They won't leave without. They will if they're ordered to. Reeves cut him off. Send it. As Park reluctantly transmitted the order, the enemy flagship began maneuvering closer, apparently intent on capturing the disabled Dauntless. They don't know what we've deployed, Seto realized. They think they've won. And that's their final mistake. Reeves nodded. All hands, prepare for emergency protocols. Lieutenant Commander Sato, are the escape pods functional? Sato checked his console. Pods on decks 1 through 4 operational, Captain. Sufficient for the entire crew. Begin evacuation. All non-essential personnel to pods immediately. As her orders were relayed throughout the ship, Reeves turned to her bridge officers. I need 6 volunteers to remain aboard. We'll need to manually adjust our position using maneuvering thrusters to ensure maximum effect on their flagship. Without hesitation, every officer on the bridge remained at their station. I believe that's more than 6, Captain, Park said with a tight smile. Reeves felt a surge of pride, but shook her head. I appreciate the sentiment, but I won't sacrifice more lives than necessary. Okafor, Park, Sato, you'll remain with me. The rest of you, to the escape pods. That's an order. As most of the bridge crew reluctantly departed, Reeves opened a channel to engineering. Chief Takahashi, join the evacuation. With respect, Captain, someone needs to keep these thrusters functioning. Came the stubborn reply. Besides, I built the damn thing. Might as well see it work. Reeves didn't argue further. Time was running short, and the enemy flagship was now less than 5,000 kilometers away, well within the singularity generator's effective range. 90 seconds to activation, Takahashi reported. I've managed to reroute power to the forward maneuvering thrusters. We can make one significant adjustment to our position. Reeves studied the tactical display, calculating angles and distances. Wait for my mark, Chief. We need perfect timing. The Quantarium flagship extended docking tubes, clearly intending to board and capture the Dauntless. They still had no idea what was about to happen. 60 seconds. Takahashi's voice was calm. Enemy boarding parties preparing to enter the ship, Seto reported. Let them come, Reeves replied. The more of them aboard, the fewer left on their ship. She opened a ship-wide channel. All remaining personnel, secure yourselves for extreme gravitational distortion. This is going to get rough. 30 seconds. The first Quantarium soldiers had breached the outer hull, according to security sensors. They would find most of the ship deserted, the escape pods already launched, and racing away at maximum thrust. 15 seconds. Captain, it's now or never for that thruster burst. Reeves watched as the enemy flagship adjusted position, bringing its main docking bay directly adjacent to the Dauntless. Perfect. Now, Chief, full forward thrust. The Dauntless lurched forward, driven by the remaining maneuvering thrusters at their maximum output. The sudden movement caught the Quantarium by surprise, sending the disabled Earth vessel crashing directly into their flagship's exposed docking bay. Metal screamed against metal as the two ships became entangled. 5 seconds. Takahashi counted down. 4, 3. It's been an honor, Reeves said simply to her remaining crew. 2, 1. In the Dauntless's cargo bay, the gravitational singularity generator activated. For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself appeared to fold inward, collapsing toward an infinitesimal point of darkness. The effect spread rapidly, engulfing both ships in a sphere of distorted gravity. The Quantarium flagship's hull began to crumple, its advanced materials unable to withstand the impossible gravitational forces. The Dauntless, built with simple but robust materials, held together a moment longer, just long enough for Reeves to witness the enemy vessel's destruction begin. Throughout the enemy fleet, confusion turned to panic as their command ship imploded, dragged into a short-lived but catastrophically powerful gravitational well. The distortion spread further than expected, catching dozens of nearby Quantarium vessels in its influence. Ships were crushed or torn apart as they tried to flee, their advanced propulsion systems failing under the extreme conditions. From a safe distance, the surviving Earth vessels and escape pods watched in awe as nearly a third of the enemy fleet was destroyed in a cascade of secondary explosions. The remaining Quantarium ships, suddenly without leadership or coordination, began to withdraw in disarray. 3 days later, Admiral Chen stood before the Confederation Council, recounting the battle and the sacrifice of the Dauntless and her captain. In the face of overwhelming technological superiority, he concluded, Captain Reeves and her crew reminded us all of a fundamental truth. It is not the sophistication of our tools that determines victory, but the ingenuity, courage, and determination of those who wield them. Ambassador Tyloth rose from the Xyrelian delegation. The Confederation has long valued advancement and innovation above all else. We dismissed Earth's outdated approach as primitive and unworthy. We were wrong. The ambassador bowed deeply, an unprecedented gesture from a Xyrelian to a human. The Dauntless and her crew have taught us that there is wisdom in maintaining connection to older technologies, in valuing human intuition alongside artificial intelligence. As the council session concluded, Admiral Chen was approached by a junior officer who handed him a data tablet with a puzzled expression. Sir, we've received a transmission. It's, well, you should see for yourself. Chen looked down at the screen and froze. The message was brief, text only, and originated from a sector far beyond the battle site. Old ships die hard. Heading home the long way. Save some of that Xyrelian respect for when we get back. Reeves. Somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a battered escape pod drifted on minimal power. Inside, Captain Eleanor Reeves and her surviving bridge crew waited patiently as Chief Takahashi worked on the communication system. How long until they find us? Asked Lieutenant Park. With the distortion field affecting sensors, could be weeks, Takahashi replied, not looking up from his work. But they will find us. Humans always have a knack for surviving against the odds. Reeves gazed out the small viewport at the distant stars. The Quantarium threat was neutralized, for now. But more importantly, humanity had earned its place in the Confederation, not through technological marvels, but through the oldest human qualities, adaptability, resourcefulness, and the stubborn refusal to surrender. You know, she said thoughtfully, When we get back, they're probably going to want to replace all our old ships with new ones. Not likely, Takahashi grunted. Not after what they just saw. Sometimes, Captain, the old ways really are the best ways. Reeves smiled. The galaxy had just learned a lesson that humanity had known since its earliest days among the stars. Never underestimate a determined crew with an outdated ship, especially when that crew is human.